Friends, family, and keepers of the faith, welcome to another Del Boy blog. And as always, we'll date stamp this, and it'll be an unusual date stamp. So it's year 4, blog 1, or in legacy numbers, it's my 157th blog, dated the 23rd of February 2025. Yeah, it's year 4, the first one. And usually I would sort of like reflect an awful lot on year 3 and year 2, think about what worked, what didn't work, changes, that sort of thing. As you do with anything, like on TV in the past when something finished and it came back, it would look slightly different, feel slightly different, have a few fresh ideas. But it's been a little bit more difficult, possibly because of work, possibly because of other things going on in the background, for me to really make any radical changes. I'm still going to look at doing some sort of intro. I'm a little bit concerned about something like that. Friends of mine have intros, and years later they found that they used a piece of music that basically causes them sort of like copyright strikes or YouTube issues, even though it was okay for years, and therefore it has a knock-on effect on whether they have to go back over all their old videos and take that out, or just change it from that point, and not worry about the past videos. Then there's the ideas of a introduction and the implementation, which I've got plenty of ideas. I've got it in my head how I'd like it to look, but have I got the tools to actually do it? Learn the tools. I've got the the software, some Adobe Suite software, and lots of free stuff that you can get off the internet. But you have to learn all that, and it's very difficult when you've got sleep deprivation and other health issues that cause that. And other friends of mine, they've had other people do it for them and stuff, and I don't have that particular friend base for me to do that. Plus, I'm never very good at asking for things. I'm good at giving things, but not for asking for things. So, yeah. But that's talking about myself, and we need to talk about that a little bit later on. Normally I just start off with just looking out the window, and what a difference today is compared to yesterday. Yesterday was almost like a spring morning. I went out into the garden and looked at some of the things I haven't been doing because of my health. When you have a heart problem like I did, it tells you that gardening is one of the things to avoid until you're totally competent at feeling that there's going to be no chest pains and all that sort of stuff. And, I don't have chest pains, but I do have other issues like sciatica, problems with my knee. The one big problem that the heart attack does is I do get out of breath. Now, I don't get that tired, as noted by doing my walk and things like that, but I do get out of breath talking in long sentences, that sort of thing, and out of breath bending down, going, sitting, standing back up, going down, standing back up, all of those sorts of things causes me discomfort is probably the best way to, but it, that breathlessness goes away, and you start to feel normal again after just coming in and having a cup of tea or something, along the lines of about a couple of minutes. So it's just a real matter of breaking that barrier. There are friends of mine that are runners that will will appreciate what that means, where you get to a point where you break that barrier that's always in front of you. You just go, right, I'm going to go a little bit longer. And you tend to find you hit that plateau where, oh my God, it's almost like you don't need to breathe anymore. It becomes easy. You just keep going. You don't feel any pain. It's almost like a boxer that breaks his wrist during a fight. The numbness comes in and you don't feel it anymore. And so therefore you can continue, even though a broken wrist would seem to indicate that that's your fight gone. It's that sort of thing. So, got some ideas, got some things to sort out, that sort of stuff. But we'll talk about the news, shall we? And it's been a pretty worldwide news week rather than a UK news week. So we start off with the war, which is where most of the international news has been. So this is what I wrote down after I looked at the news articles this morning. Putin's troops launched 267 drones at Ukraine overnight as Trump claimed a deal to end the war, and it could be made this week. This comes as Prime Minister Starmer vowed to uphold the UK's ironclad support. Meanwhile, Zelensky has demanded Europe be given a seat at the negotiation table with Russia after a productive talk with Starmer on Saturday. Trump has dismissed the idea of Ukraine being involved in negotiations as an obstacle to peace. This comes after Tuesday and Wednesday's press conferences where Trump has mentioned Ukraine started the war, amongst other startling statements that when fact-based checking do not hold up. Yeah, so it's been a major week. There's been 2 press conferences that occurred Tuesday and Wednesday, and some statements were made by Prime Minister Trump, which, when I've listened to the radio, they seem to indicate are absolutely rubbish or not fact-based. And then speaking to just friends lightly about it, the startling revelation of it has made those people I spoke to just basically hammer back on just how Trump is as a prime minister. And yet I've also spoken to other people with the opposite effect, where they talk more about how Trump is a very productive president, gets things going, is very productive at turning things around for his own country, which is just what a president should do, and is a stark contrast of other prime ministers and presidents around the world, which I can't disagree with. I mean, that's very true. As much as I don't agree totally with things that are said, I have to look at the middle line, as it were, in regards to what exactly is a prime minister and a president supposed to do. So it's been an interesting week. I really disliked the press conference on what Trump was saying. I as well had that startling effect covering, coming straight at my face and making me sort of like get quite angry with some comments, about who started the war, the reasons why Ukraine shouldn't be sitting at the table, all of this sort of stuff in regards to negotiations. I don't know if I mentioned, this is a much smaller thing in regards to something that happened to me at work, where 2 people had a bit of a spat about something at work, one of them being me. And what happened was that person spoke to a manager, and that manager, without any sitting down of both of us together to talk about it, made a decision and said, I don't want any of this. It stops now. And then made decisions that seemed to indicate that the other person was in the right, without listening to the full story of the other person that also thought he was in the right, which is me. So that becomes one-sided. That is not how a manager would deal with a situation. I mentioned that to a higher up at work. They seem to agree that no startling decisions should be made without hearing both sides. So in a bigger form like this one, where it's negotiations around the table, how can you not have Ukraine at the negotiation table? Surely that's wrong. But again, I don't generally have too many opinions, but the discussion point on that whole sort of like press conference could go on for the whole of this blog, and I still wouldn't come up with a sensible, I think, answer to it all. I'm no politician. I don't have that sort of like knowledge to turn around and say I'm definitely right. Whenever I'm doing anything, if I'm doing a film critique, I spend a lot of time fact basing what I'm about to say, and I can still get it wrong. So, in a blog where it's just talking about what's happened this week, not worth it. So that was the big news, and that took up a huge amount of time on this pad, and supersedes probably just everything that was happening in the UK and the rest of the world. So I've got a few things here that's happened this week in the UK. There's been a huge sinkhole that swallowed a large part of a Surrey road, and this happened on Wednesday. The story continues during the rest of the week, where people have had to evacuate the houses. People have had to sleep in cars because they've got no other choice on where to sleep. And safety reasons has made it difficult for fixing this particular sinkhole. And we've heard sinkhole stories and scare stories like this all around the world. And it just goes to show how our world is pretty fragile, and what we build on top of it can, disintegrate certain, parts of the foundation that we build on. So yeah, it's, when we consider all the burst pipes and where the water goes and where it soaks into the ground and where that water displaces to and all of that sort of stuff, is it any wonder that we've got tarmac roads that basically just fall into big holes? It's a scary thing. You could be driving along the road and boom, you could be in a hole the next second. It's not good. This was an interesting one. This was more about the UK. More UK stars are dropping out of the global bestseller charts as streaming becomes the major way to listen to music or watch films. So yeah, there's this global bestseller chart, and as you know, we've moved away a little bit from physical media in a way to judge the selling of a particular product, whether that be a film or music. And according to this, when it comes to worldwide sales, that where things like Apple Music comes in and all of that sort of stuff, there are less and less plays of UK artists, or less and less downloads or watching of British films, and the chart therefore has become top heavy with other artists, and it doesn't mention it, but I take it that's more American. And how do we look at that? Do we look at that from a perspective of landmass and people? Do we look at it from a quality of the product? Do we look at it that we've oversaturated with our back catalogues for stuff? Is it because it's not as accurate to record these figures as it would be with sales, where you actually, each shot becomes part of a chart, a gallop, like the old days, the gallop chart, and basically every sale is recorded, collated, and there you are. You've got your figures for the week. Not sure where to look at it from this. I do think it must be quite hard when it comes to streaming. I mean, think about the times where I wanted to listen myself on my phone to a tune or something when I'm walking, and it plays for about 10 seconds and then stops, and you look at your phone and you go, I don't know what's going on, I'll hit the next one, and that plays and it continues okay. But there's all of those ones where you only played about 5 seconds before it stopped. Does that really count? And then when you purchase them, how is that recorded? I'm not quite sure. I take it the money goes to the broker, and the broker then, and of course it's recorded as a sale on the site, and those figures are then go back to the distributor. So yeah, lots of things to think about there. I've never really thought too much about it. I'm definitely a person of don't agree with the figures, or do the figures really matter as long as I like it, all of that sort of stuff. But as we move forward with the difficulty now of physical media, both in music form and film form, all changing to a streaming platform, where my particular medium that I prefer is the physical media, this all becomes a bit damning. So all I know is I do think that we're still in a pretty healthy situation when it comes to physical media. I love it. I don't think I'll ever change from that perspective. But then again, I'm an older person. I'm not a youngster. A youngster that doesn't really care. As long as they can hear it all right, it sounds great, or on a film, it looks fine. From my point of view, I want the best. If I'm paying that sort of money, I don't want shit. So yeah, I don't totally agree with streaming. Streaming has its purpose. I totally understand it. From many people's perspective, it doesn't get over the fact that I'll always go physical media. It's just the way I am. So what else did I read? It says here that England beat Scotland by 1 point in a thrilling match in the Six Nations rugby on Saturday, stopping a 5th defeat for England in a row between the two sides. Yes, so Scotland have beaten England 4 or so times in a row, amongst many rugby sort of like contests. This would have been a 5th, and it went all the way to the wire with 1 point winning it, and England stopping Scotland getting that 5th. I mean, from my point of view, I love Scotland. I think there's some great people up there, and many of my friends are. I love England because that's where I was born. I look at the matches as sort of more friendly, but they call them the old rivals and all of this sort of stuff. I don't know whether it's to stir up trouble or whatever. From my point of view, I do like watching the rugby. I did play rugby when I was at school. I wouldn't say that I'm totally au fait with understanding, who people are where people are in the charts in regards to the standings for how much a player is worth and all of that sort of stuff, like football does all the time. But I did also slightly look at the Wales game. I think it was Wales Ireland, and that game was equally as thrilling. As long as it's a thrilling match, as long as everybody's having a good time, as long as you can go away going, well, I think our players, my side, did the best they could, then it's great. I think it's a great thing to watch. I'm always thinking of the other side, the losers that have to walk home or travel home disheartened, all of that sort of stuff. We've been there before in England many, many times. We're not the strength that we make out to be, but we're a proud people, as much like Scotland is and Ireland is and Wales is and all the other countries. We're proud. So, of course, we rally behind them. And, that's a great thing, isn't it, really? It's something to hold on to. And that was the news. So really, what I normally do is just talk about myself. And really, it's been the first week, I think. This has been the first week where I've not been chipper. I've not been my normal self. I've not been happy. And it's not for anything that's going on in the background of YouTube or game playing or watching films or anything like that. It's just a feeling. It's nothing really bad is really happening at work either, but there are some concerning things. I'll mention one particular thing. I've had my manager and my task manager off this week. That's left me to work to my own devices, and I've done the very best I can. I've tried to clear up reports, make things more efficient, all of that sort of stuff. But I also know that my task manager, the person that when I came back after my heart attack, rallied to say, I want this person to work with me to work on the project I'm working on and give him the skill set that I think we need for the future, which empowered me to know that this person is now leaving, going off to another project. And the damning thing about it was, he said that he didn't know how long this project would be for, and he didn't know who my task manager would be, but it definitely wouldn't be him, and it could be, therefore, the other task manager that works on the other side, the side that I haven't been working in, the side that caused me an awful lot of my problems before my heart attack. So you start to think to yourself, oh my God, these people, do they know how much work I've been putting in? Do they know how I've changed since I've come back? Have they got a perception of what I am, or maybe they're thinking he doesn't do anything during the day. You can see it by the daily meetings that when he talks about what he's done the day before, it's less than what we're doing and all of this sort of stuff. And my task manager, when I told him about some of my concerns, couldn't not back up that my thoughts were true. He actually did say that, yes, there have been some opinions, in regards to, what I do, because they don't know what I'm doing. They naturally think I'm doing less than them. He said that he's put them right each time. Now, I spoke to my people manager, and he said that he was going to have a word with my task manager because it's his last week next week and get some things cleared up. But he was at a meeting a week before, and my name did come up, and they stated that when my manager did leave, I would be the lead on this project. So I would become the person that would maintain the figures, the weekly figures, the monthly figures, and everything in regards to this project, which empowered me again. you get this balloon feeling of deflation and being built up again and deflation again. It has a toll on you if you don't have someone to talk about it. And I think that's what the big problem is. If you don't have a work base or a friend base that you can talk these things to, then basically it's like a kettle boiling. You have no pressure, no release of the pressure. I can't talk to an 83-year-old, my mother, in regards to this. So, of course, it stays with me. I also have that characteristic where I don't want to burden people. It's the reason why I haven't asked for a introduction to be made by somebody else. It's one of the reasons why I probably don't accept gifts well. Or how to hand. It's not about what to do to when you receive a gift, because I always say thank you and all of that sort of stuff. It's not about that. It's more about how you show it. And I there have been times where it probably looks like I'm disjointed or not overjoyed and not unhappy. It's that middle ground which deflates people because they want them to be overjoyed. So yeah, it's things for me to think about. These are things that I have to work on myself. So I will work on those problems. And like I say, it's been a weird week. There's been a couple of people missing, that I've been on chats in the week, and so forth. Less comments made in regards to this blog, which I'll talk about in a moment. And it deflates you, so if you have all that stuff going on at home, then you have all the other stuff which you notice that there is a downside as well as an upside to, then basically it can have an effect on you. So I'm going to say it's been a mixed week, not a disastrous week. And it's the first one, so that means it's taken, 8 weeks for me to have a bad week? That ain't bad going. 1 out of 8. You know what I mean? My God. When I think about other years, I'd be talking about a bad week nearly every week. So, I've got a smile on my face. I'm still here. I'm still working. I still keep pushing forward. I still have the same characteristic I always have done, which is if I can help someone, I will. All of that sort of good stuff, all there. That'll never go anyway. I don't have resentment and bad feelings towards anybody. Do you know what I mean? I can be disappointed, at a particular point in time, but then the next day I could be totally different and go, oh, who gives a shit? Do you know what I mean? It's just one of those things that sometimes when you're looking back at yourself, you can get depressed about it all, a little bit sad, that things went that way or whatever. And I'm talking about everything here: work, YouTube, even playing games and buying games. You get gaming remorse. I'm sure people have heard that term made. It's not all about particular people. It's a group holistic thing, a big ball that basically, we work on. So, I can't really say of anything really other than I'm working on all of those sort of like problems, and that's something that you do, every day of your life, really. So, I think things will continue along a good vein. I think 2025. I'm certainly happy with the way it started. So that's 30 minutes of my rubbish out the way for the week. Monday was fine, Tuesday was fine, Wednesday, I have my lovely chat with Ian, the Ian Hill, the Ramblings. We have a chat. We even had a discussion afterwards on an anniversary event, because we're approaching one. Just like this is year 4, episode 1. It's what you could call an anniversary event. When we talk about this, I could say that the next anniversary event, let's see, when I look at the figures here, the next anniversary event could be when I reach blog 175, or when I reach blog 200, or, you know, when I reach, I don't know, blog 21 of year 4, you know, just whatever, you know, 26 or something like that. They're all sort of what people call landmark events, like when they get a subscriber base that reaches 1,000 or whatever. It is something that you then cheers you up. You know, figures on YouTube that go up cheer you up. Figures that go down don't. And a lot of people will say, don't look at the figures. And I'm totally in agreement with that as well. The trouble is, you always want to better yourself. And figures are what even businesses use in a way to improve. So it's not always the easiest thing in the world to do not to look at figures. I'll add that. But I will say at the end of that is, I ain't taking much notice of them. A lot of people have told me, if they make you miserable, disregard them. Just continue to be happy and do what you do. Wise words. So we move forward now and we do the shout outs. And like I say, there's been not so many people that have done them. Everybody that's commented have been I'm really happy with. And remember, I do recognise that we're in half term. People have got their own lives. I recognise that even some of my friends have actually turned around and said that they've had problems in regards to accidents that they've been in, having to travel to work to long distances, stay overnight, and then drive or fly back. That takes up a huge chunk of people's time. And therefore, you shouldn't look at your own little channel and turn around and say, why hasn't that person not written a comment? You don't do that. You will notice that when I get to a certain point in my blog, I turn around and say, this is what I've watched. But remember, just because I haven't watched something from my friend this week, that doesn't necessarily mean I've disregarded them. It just means that I've not had the time. You know, there have been other things I've had to do, you know. Some of those things could be in regards to my mother. So, you know, I've had to look after her. So surely other people could be in the same boat. And you have to look at that and say, does it really matter? No. Might make this blog a bit shorter. That might cheer people up. Look at it from that point of view. So I'm going to give out a big shout out to these people that have mentioned me and have, you know, wished me well and raised a comment. And that is Ian Hill, The Ramblings, Stephen Taylor, Colin Jones, a.k.a. Ponder, Martroid, Steve's Gaming, and Denny. That's just on the blog. Now, remember, I've done some other things. I've done my friends playing games. So I've done a couple of streams, or should I say videos there. And I've continued with the Kingdom Come 2 game, Deliverance. Done another one of those. And I'm just about to do another Astrometica to finish the 20th video in that series, which will finalize that particular game. And there are lots of other things that I'm working on in relation to film, TV, soundtracks, all of that sort of stuff, which requires a bit more time. But I've been thinking to myself that those would probably be good to work on, like on a Monday night or a Tuesday night. You know, get all the research bit out the way. and then don't do so much blog prep on a Saturday. Do some of it during the week. Keep adding to it. And give yourself space on a Saturday morning to record the film stuff, which is actually not a bad idea and probably will help with me keeping my brain active and not sleeping. See, because sleep deprivation has been one of those problems for me. So all of those people, a big thank you, and I'm going to read out their comments shortly. For all the people that commented on the other videos, thank you so much. And for all those people that wished us all well and had a massive time and happy time on Ian Hill the Rambling stream on Wednesday, thank you so much for coming on. Thank you so much for making the live stream a fun one for us both. Ian deserves more than I can actually say. You know, I can say as much, you know, and big things up as much as I want, and you can agree with it or disagree with it, but I think he deserves more than he gets. He's a very big collaborative player, wants to work with people, wants to talk to people, is enlightening enough to hear what they say and then come back with a retort. So, you know, all of that sort of stuff is very hard to do, you know. And I did it for quite a while. I did a few live streams, you know, in the past, and I've been on a number of other people's live streams, and it can get very, very difficult to, it's not to match wits, but it's to not be scared and come back with the answer that people want to hear, and you not get your facts wrong or muddled up with the words you use. It's very much a thing about how you're feeling and how you are on the time that it's being recorded. And you could feel very empowered before you hit that record button, and then shrink to a mouse size while it's recording. It really is quite a thing. So I'm going to now bring up the comments. I think I got them ready. Yes, I do. There we go. And I'm just going to check on my mother, as I always do, because I get to a certain point in this blog and I think, oh, that's a good point just to have a little thing there. The other thing I'm going to do, which I remember from last week, I'm going to make the text larger. Might make things a little bit better with the blurriness of my eyes. So I won't be long. I'm going to hit pause, and hopefully that'll work and I won't have to do jump cuts. Back in a moment. Thanks very much. And I'm back, so let's get started. And I just want to say that most of the people that I've got listed here, a lot of them have their own channel. If you know, I list a lot of channels in my description, where I think most people should have just an even quick look at them. Please do, if you've got time, look at some of these people that I mention. If they've got a channel, they're definitely worth your time. So we start off with Ian Hill. The Ramblings, it's no particular order. These are just as they've come up when I've opened up the comments section. And it starts off as I go here. Hi, Delboy. Hope you and your mum are okay. It would make such a big difference to your life getting your sleep pattern sorted out. I believe you do have the determination to do it. It's important because you need to be healthy to look after your mother. You certainly have made a lot of strides forward, and I think you will overcome any obstacles. Your mum being a priority is a driving force. Also, it will help you do more things you enjoy doing. I can see a good positive change already. I'm sure your progress will continue. What the world needs is a good Del Boy rant. It makes me laugh, actually. The rant thing. It's sort of like it's a character that I sort of like have created for Ian Hill's The Ramblings. You know, here we are, two people in a pub, And I used to think to the old Harry Enfield comedy show where there were two people in a pub and they were just talking about nonsense and then mention one particular person, and this person would then go on a rant and say, yeah, this bloke's a good person, but if he was to come to me and say this, I'd say, oi, no, like this, you know. And you're going, if you're in a pub and you were talking about films and stuff, you'd probably have that one person that would do that, you know. So knowing that I know Ian's had a bad time, you know, in the past, I wanted to cheer him up. And I thought, if I invent a character that would sort of like come up with a funny, stupid answer to something that's not supposed to be taken seriously, it would make him smile and laugh. And on the majority of it, it's worked, and nobody has mentioned anything about it bad or anything. So I continued to do it. And the one thing about it all was just to make my friend laugh and smile. He deserves, in the middle of the week, to get rid of all of that stress and problems, forget about it, have a nice chat and listen to somebody come out with some absolute nonsense as answers to some particular things. Some of it, though, is absolutely true. Don't get me wrong, but I mix it in with some really, do you really think like that? And, you know, that makes me smile when I know that I've made my friend laugh out loud, you know, on a live show. So that's where that comes from. And when it comes to my mother, yeah, it's a degenerative thing, memory. It's not something that all you can do is slow down the process. So just before I came in here, hit the record button, I said to my mother, don't come in, I'm going to be a couple of hours, I'm writing a blog. She says, what's a blog? Why are you doing it? Who's these people that watch it? And I've had to sort of like explain it to her, like, does Angela Rippon from the news from the years past talk about who are you talking to? I keep saying I'm talking to a camera. I'm not doing anything else. It's a sort of a recording that I'm doing really for my nephew and nieces mostly. That's what this is for. And for anybody else that's nosy enough to want to listen to what's going on in somebody's life. So that's basically it. It's not to cause an offence. It's to listen to the ramblings of somebody who's talking about what happened in their week. It's a visual diary. So of course it will have ups and downs and opinions and insights and all sorts of stuff that people can take away and, you know, digest, or even if there's some channels there that I suggest, go and watch, you know. So that's pretty much it. So anyway, he continues. I'm happy because this old git is feeling more comfortable now. Shock horror. It's not cold. The temperature has gone up. Hope this lasts. I think I should whisper. I don't want the weather to hear it. It can be temperamental. It might decide to blow some cold air back because it's awkward bugger. Yeah, it does it. It is northern accent. I can sort of like hear his voice as he's saying these things. Loved our live chat. We had a good time as usual. A lot of laughter mixed with a lot of great discussions about films and some music. We were waiting and finally we got the Jerry Goldsmith mentioned. Yeah. Another character exploit is that a big majority of the soundtracks that I own are by Jerry Goldsmith. Don't get me wrong. I've got a lot of soundtracks and they're from equally strong composers of the time. John Williams, Alan Silvestri, Georges Delarue, Horner, Ross. Yeah, so many. You know, Morricone. I could mention a ton, but we got this little, I think it must be a drinking game or something. How many times can Del Boy say Goldsmith or something in a live stream? I don't know. Seems to make people laugh anyway. You sent me the download for the film The Brutalist. To be honest, it wasn't one I was looking forward to. It was very informative, some great performances from all the actors. I think, though, the style and design is awful. I don't like it. The cold, ugly architecture is not my cup of tea. Though I see it was widely acclaimed, I'd even rather have the Art Deco style, which isn't my favourite. I love the Gothic style mixed with Art Nouveau. Now, yeah, I have to have an opinion on that in the thing that when a film is being made, they're going to have discussions with the cinematographer, the director, and so forth about how it should look, how it should be portrayed. There are some ways that you can do this. He mentions art decor and all that sort of stuff, and I'd say yeah, but if you're doing a film like, say, The Full Monty, right? It's supposed to look bleak, people in a job centre, looking for work. What can we do? We've got no money. Let's take our clothes off. Were those places that they were going to do this shithole dive pub type situations, or the Palladium? Same thing for this film. It's not supposed to be bright. It's bleak. Kes is not a lovely film where people's houses are filled and they look like those houses that you'd see in Terry and June, lovely sofas, big sort of like bay windows and all that sort of stuff. We're talking about hovels, sites where the glass window looks like the putty's just about to dry up and the glass fall out. It's that sort of bleakness. And from that perspective, I would therefore slightly disagree, but I understand, it's not going to be for everybody. It is an acclaimed film. I looked at it and enjoyed it. I can understand why it's an acclaimed film. I, again, think you don't want to watch this when you're feeling down yourself, because you want to have an impartial look at it and go, oh, thank God I don't live in that sort of world. But you have to understand those places exist, and sometimes they have to be shown. So I look at it a little bit like that. But yeah, it's not for everybody. But I do understand why it's, in some people's eyes, it's film of the year. I needed to watch it because I heard of all of the acclaim about it, but I didn't know what the story was about. So, I got great enjoyment by seeing who was in it, because I didn't even know who was in it, and what it was about, because I knew nothing other than the title, really. And sometimes it's great to go in and see a film like that. So Ian continues, on the other hand, I watched The Gorge, which is a 2025 film, which seems to have now got a limited release. In my opinion, you can't go wrong with Anya Taylor-Joy and Sigourney Weaver. This film was a mixture of genres, sci-fi, horror, action and romance. A film that will be in my favourite films of the year list. That's great if you come across a film that you go, ooh, really like that. I didn't really know too much about that. Oh, it's this type of film. It's sci-fi, it's fantasy, it's this, that, the other. Oh, it's got these actresses and actors, Sigourney Weaver, great. You could also look at it and go, would it be the same if another actress was in it? Say Maggie Smith was still alive. Dame Maggie Smith was in the Sigourney Weaver role. Would you look at it the same? I think it's the heart of the thing that the right actors and actresses are in it for the right reasons. So it's great that The Gorge has got that in it. He continues, I've just done a review of the film The Good Die Young from 1954. There's a young Joan Collins in it, one of my all-time favourite actors, Stanley Baker. It's a very entertaining crime drama. Yeah, I like crime dramas. Don't watch enough of them, really. Most crime drama I watch is generally TV stuff, you know, Columbo, that sort of stuff. So, yeah, it's great to watch some of these. I take it that would be black and white. Yeah, these black and white films. Brilliant. So my question this week, here we go, just we take a sip. What would be the perfect crime which you could do without getting caught? Wow. Now I've seen Kojak, Quincy, Columbo, Tales of the Unexpected even, Thriller, Armchair Thriller, all sorts of films and TV that have had a crime in it, that they've tried to do the perfect crime. And it comes across to me that if you're going to kill anybody, say it's a one particular person, the way you want to kill them is in the way that it can't be discovered what the murder weapon was. You know, you can cover anything up about where you were and all of this sort of stuff. I've seen all of that. But really, the murder weapon is the thing that usually fouls them up. Now, there are a couple of instances in Tales of the Unexpected that make me laugh. I've heard of them all before. I did this puzzle once, a Kojak puzzle, right? And it said, how did this person die? Complete the puzzle to find out. And when you completed the puzzle, you saw that there was a worker that opened up a flask and a load of bees came out, and the bees caused him to have an accident, which then caused this big problem on this construction site. Wonderful puzzle. It's about 3,000 pieces. You had no picture. You just had to complete it. And I've seen Tales of the Unexpected where somebody was clobbered over the head with a piece of a huge leg of lamb or something, some huge leg of something. And when the person was discovered dead on the floor, all the police were around looking at the evidence around what was going on in the house and so forth. And they finally sat down to talk, you know, to try and calm the wife down, who actually was the murderess, right? And they were eating the evidence because she killed him with a big leg of lamb or mutton or whatever it was. Absolutely brilliant. And I've heard no end of stories where if you kill somebody with an icicle, then it will melt. And there you are, you destroy the evidence. The only thing that would be left with it would be a water puddle on the floor, which could come from anywhere. You know, somebody dropped a cup on the floor with water in it, a dripping tap, anything. You know what I mean? So, again, a puncture wound, it looks like a knife, it was an icicle. And the only other thing I can think of is natural disasters. Things where they had no control over it, but it was caused by you. So that flask of bees that I talked about, or making it so that their tires were deflated or enough, and then when they were travelling home, you knew it was going to be raining that night, and what strip of road they'd be going down, and you made it, you know, virtually impossible that they'd be able to steer straight and without crashing the car or something like that. All of those things, probably perfect crimes. They're the only ones I can think of, but I've watched enough crime TV to know those seem to be the best ones. They always, you know, if you try and do that with Columbo, forget it, he'll figure it out. But those are the ones. So thank you very much. That was an interesting question. Don't get asked sort of questions like that on other shows, do you? Absolutely brilliant. Right, so we'll move on. Like I say, there's not too many of these. So we got Martroid. Good friend Martroid. He said, oh, salute, by the way, to Ian Hill, The Ramblings. And like I say, I have a live stream with him on a Wednesday. Do look at his channel. Martroid said, thanks for that story about you and your dad fishing together, Del. I absolutely loved it. That also, that Steelbook of Constantine looks rather tasty. A great film. Good to see that they're finally doing a sequel. Should be worth a watch, eh? Another movie I'm looking forward to see is Mickey 17 or Mikey 17 from the guy, oh, it says read more, who gave us Parasite. Oh, right, okay. So I've got a couple of things there for me to write down and make a note of. So Mikey 17, okay. I'll have a think and have a little look at that. I did know that Constantine was getting a sequel. Yeah, that's brilliant. The fishing story. My dad loved telling that story. It is true. It did happen. It used to be a source of embarrassment for me, but can't hear my dad talk about that anymore. So yeah, absolutely brilliant. So glad I told it. Thank you very much for letting me relive a memory, Martroid, and salute to you, sir. We're now moving forward to Stephen Taylor, 19711. He's put, hi, Del Boy. Thanks as always for your great blog. Thank you for all the people that think it's a great blog. Thank you. I really, after 4 years, still umming and ahhing on whether it's good, bad, indifferent, better than other people's, could be improved here, there, and everywhere. People seem to enjoy it. For your great blog, and I hope you've had a good week. It's wonderful to see where you are compared to last year regarding your health issues. Yeah, I just want to mention that the whole point of the blog was actually for my nephew and niece, and it was a visual diary. But it was also to let them know what I was thinking and feeling at the time, and also to give them an impression of what I think was expensive and good that I bought and what's rubbish. So that when I go and I leave everything I've got to them, because I've got no wife and no child myself, they get something that they now know the value of, something that they can consider when they're putting it on eBay, which inevitably I think they will do. And of course my health comes into it as well. So you mentioned that you're now able to do quite long walks, and I was wondering if they are completely pain-free, as I know you have issues with both your knee and your back. Also, since your heart attack, have you had to change your diet? And if you have, how are you finding it? Yeah, thank you very much, and thank you for the interesting questions. I will say this, I'm not in pain when I go for a walk, probably due to a tablet called gabapentin. I don't know if I can show it, actually. Just bear with me. So, just to prove some of this medicine that I have to take, and it's a heck of a lot, I have this controlled drug which you can only get monthly. You can't even get it every 2 months. And it's called gabapentin. Now, I started off with one of these and it made no difference, and it rose to 2, and I managed. You see, at the very beginning, when I was walking before my heart attack occurred, I was trying to walk to Sainsbury's, do the shopping, and walk back without stopping, and I couldn't get to the end of the street without stopping. And then eventually with one tablet I managed to get there, but need to sit on a bench at Sainsbury's before I do the walk, and then I'd sit on the bench after I've done the shopping, and then sit back for the walk home with a shitload of shopping in your hand, so it was quite heavy. So we increased it to 2, and that was better. I managed to get all the way to shopping and then sit on the bench and then walk home. When I got to 3, I managed to do it all in one go. But as I mentioned to the doctor, I said I used to be able to do a long walk, and then it was on the journey back that I'd stop off at the shops, do the shopping, and come back. That's the point where I know I'm okay. So we raised it to 4, and that's dangerous. You don't want to really be above 3. And on the fourth tablet, I found that if I took 2 in the morning and 2 in the evening, I could get through the day, and at night I'd sleep better, or better, a little bit better than I was, because I've never been good at sleeping. Now I can do about a 3-mile walk. I don't have pains in my chest. That's gone away totally with the stents, but I do get out of breath, and that's all to do with me having to do a little bit more walking and a bit more regular. Go back to those times where I used to do my walk all the time. I take as well something called bisoprolol, which I need to take for a year. That's to help with the skin forming over the top of the stent in the valve that's in your heart, and to stop infection with that. That's what I believe it was explained to me. And then I also take something called ticagrelor. Yeah, ticagrelor. Which again I have to take 1 in the morning and 1 in the evening. They even actually put a little picture of night and day. I was supposed to take them. And that one again is a tablet that I think I need to take just for a year, along with the bisoprolol. That's a year tablet. The gabapentin is as needed, in regards to how long I'm going to be on it for. The rest of my life, just for a year, whatever. And then when it comes to the food I eat, yes, of course, the diet has had to change. When I went to physio, they gave you a lot of books. I might put the overhead cam on, actually. There we go. So they gave me medicines for my heart, an explanation, cardiac rehabilitation, speeded by recovery, tests for heart conditions, returning to work with a heart condition. I've got my blood pressure under control. Good for you, bastard. 10 minutes to change your life. Time to quit. It's about smoking. Coronary angioplasty, which I had, helped me to keep active. Understanding stress. Oh my God, this goes on. Beating my heart attack. All of these things. And some of them have got things about food. So they mention about dairy food, meat products, normal, everyday, household type things, and how reducing salt, having no salt in butter, controlling your cheese and intake, bread for definite, more bran, having cereal in the morning, the importance of having 3 meals a day, little and often type things, discussions, all of that. And a lot of it you take in, and a lot of it you can't, I mean, as much as they'll turn around and say, have vegetables, things that are good for you are Brussels and cabbage, and I'm going, I'm sorry, I'm 56. It's hard now, my age, to turn around and say to me, yeah, have some cabbage. No, I might try the odd thing, like I used to have a cheese sandwich. So instead of having big slabs of cheese, grate it, and then instead of having a slice of ham on top, put a lettuce leaf there, and then sprinkle a dab of low sugar salad cream to get rid of the taste if you don't like wet, soggy lettuce type things. So yeah, there's been things I've tried, and hopefully I'm doing an okayish job. So that's what I've been doing when it comes to food, Stephen. I hope that gives you an answer. You know, it's every day is a different day in regards to that, and it's probably what keeps me chipper. Tomorrow I'm not going to do that. I'm going to do this. I'm gonna not going to have a custard cream with my coffee. I'm going to have a coffee with no sugar in, and I won't have a biscuit. Try that. And that sort of thing. Less carbonated drinks. Not that you see much of that as a change here during this blog, but that's because of my throat. And I'm not a big fan of drinking water because it gets tepid. Cans tend to sort of like keep things cool. Again, I could use a hip flask or some thermo flask with water in it, and then take that out of the fridge and bring it here and have just water. All sorts of things I need to try. So yeah, it's every day's a different day, Stephen. So thank you very much. So we now get to my friend Colin Jones, aka Ponder, and salute by the friend of Stephen. And thank you, Colin, for your comment. Here we go. The news is utterly depressing at the moment. I'm keeping on top of it and trying hard not to let things that are out of my control get to me. But I am concerned, very concerned. Yeah, and I should think this week is not out. See earlier. Sending my regards to your mum, and glad she enjoyed her birthday. Yeah, she did. I asked her, do you remember much about, do you remember what we did on your birthday? She went, no. So, at the end of the day, as long as she had a smile, and she did, and I took a picture of her and put it on Facebook. First time I've done that, with my mother's agreement, and everybody was commenting about how well she looked, so that's good. Occasion cards are a rip-off unless you go to a discount store that stock them. Really glad to see your friends request gaming videos back. Yes, I've started that, and I've done 2 so far, and had great fun with them. And I think one of them was yours, wasn't it, Colin? I'm not sure. I have to think. I know the first one was Steve's. So I do apologise for not remembering. Regarding your sleep deprivation, I'm glad to hear they're now considering it a priority. Well, that's what the physio has sent to my doctor. So they get all these notes. It goes on my medical records. Let's see whether they make any change. I have Batasera running as I type. It's on a Pi 5 and currently has the god-awful game Dead Connection loaded for the Tubers challenge. My Batasera machine is behind this monitor, and it's an old HP small form factor computer. Only because it was lying around, to be quite honest, doing absolutely nothing. Pi 5 is wonderful things, I stopped at a Pi 4. I needed a Pi 3 for my Mister. You'll see here, this here is a MIDI thing for it, but underneath it is a Pi. You'll see that it's controlled by a Pi. It's a Pi 3. You didn't need a Pi 4 or a Pi 5 for it. It's doing such a small thing, so it has its needs. And it was good old my friend Jambon, I believe, that gave me that. I wanted to give him money for it, and he said no. And that was because I think I ordered one on eBay, and it turned up and it had bent pins and everything. I couldn't do much with it, and the guy said keep it and refunded me, if I remember rightly. But I was still looking for Pi 3s and Pi 2s to make that work, and they were getting quite scarce. So I think that problem is over with now, because it was a couple of years back. Believe it or not, my wow moments were fairly few, because while progress was rapid, it was very steady progress, and I was always a late adopter of new tech. Last gen always being cheaper. Yeah, I can understand that. And I think the good thing for me was business never had the money curtail problems that we would have as home people that bought things. I'd say mine were seeing arcade graphics such as Bomb Jack for the first time. The Amiga with a lifelike picture loaded into the deluxe paint, and the difference a proper 3D card made of a software rendering when I got a Voodoo free and ran Unreal. Having said that, I think the biggest single wow moment for me was discovering emulators. The ability to play arcade games at home was and still is amazing, and I can't fault any of that. The way that the question was worded, I took it as advancements hardware, really, and that might be me misinterpreting the question again. And I could have mentioned graphics, and I think I mentioned at the beginning, graphics are so easy for me to discuss. You know, I've seen the graphical changes from going from a VIC-20 to a Commodore 64 to an Amiga, to consoles, to PCs with CGA, EGA, VGA, SVGA, you know, and then moving into Power VR and 3DFX, Glide, and all of those sorts of like different ways to display graphics. And those were accelerating so fast I couldn't keep up. But sound cards, so slow. Changing how ports were on your PC, so slow. We had RS-232 and parallel ports for years and years and years, donkey's years. We now look at USB and go, that seems to have been around a long time. Oh, you want to see how long it was with the others that I've just mentioned? Oh my God, just look at the back of an old PC from 15 years ago. And remember that PCs that in the home were what? 81, 82 for a PC Junior. It's like anything. I mean, you could say a wow moment was going from tape to floppy disk. Huge jumps. But you're quite right. What a thing emulation is. It encapsulates everything I do on my PC. Every day I'm doing something under an emulator. And arcades were big for me, but I didn't live in a seaside resort, and arcade games were something special for me when I went to, say, a sports centre where you could go swimming, play squash and that, or go to a taxi rank, or enter a pub. So I didn't see a huge variety of them. But emulators opened that variety. I mean, I could then go on everything. It didn't matter. I didn't have to wait for a travelling fair to arrive at my town to see over 60 arcade machines. So yeah, emulation, what a fantastic thing. So thank you for that, my friend. I mean, very, very good comments you made there. It was a fantastic time. Remember, I had an A1000 with deluxe paint, and I remember loading that Tutu Carmen picture head. And I had a Digi 5 piece of software that loaded up this woman with a coloured scarf like Tom Baker would have. They were standard pictures that were given with the software. But the biggest piece of software I ever used on my Amiga was a ray tracing piece of software. And I remember it cost me, I think it was £300 or £400. Can't even remember the name of it. I actually got it a year after getting the A1000. So 1986, therefore. Going back to the Novotel Hotel. And it was in a very dull grey, like book-like package. It wasn't cardboard, it was the plastic stuff. You know, the one where you open it up and you've got lots of discs and all that sort of stuff. This thing came with a dongle and a ring-bound book, and a couple of discs. And it did ray tracing. And I remember buying that. On that day, I spent over £700 at that computer show, Commodore computer show. I also bought a Fractal program. It was a purpose commercial version after I'd been playing around with a demo of it on a Fred Fish disc. Now that's public domain discs. I did that a lot. When you had an Amiga 1000, before anybody had before even the A500 was even a thought in Commodore's head, you bought whatever was on the market. You'd buy all this crap, these SSI strategy games, epics, conversions, mixed in with some fantastic products like Cinemaware's Defender of the Crown and the Fairy Tale Adventure and all that sort of stuff. Fairy Tale Adventure wasn't Cinemaware, but King of New York, I think it was called. Was it King of Chicago? That was it. And stuff like that kept me going. So the A1000 days, yeah. And I will do my video of the very first game that came packaged with my A1000. First time I had a packaged game ever. No, that's not true, because I had an Atari 2600. Correct that. First time in a computer I had a packaged in game called Mind Walker. And I will do a video on that because it's very, very important I get that one out. It really did change my look at games, that particular one. You continue though, my friend, with my question. How secure do you consider modern car keys actually are? Is it worth keeping them in a pouch that blocks RFID signals, or is that overkill? No, it's not, and I've got a pouch. So many people lock their doors with the same key that's on their car. Now, there's two things that worry me about that particular problem, right? Why have you got your house key on your car key? If you get your keys stolen, say you're at a beach and you park your car up, go onto the beach, someone comes along, nicks your keys. First of all, they've got your car. The next thing that's stupid in it is your sat-nav will have home as a saved location, even though you know where your home is, right? And when they get there, they got the key to get into the house. Absolutely ridiculous. So I don't understand that. But my house key is not on my car key, by the way. And I don't have home in my sat-nav either. By the way, I do have home in my sat-nav, right? But it's got another name, right? Just so you know. And the reason home's there is because everything goes from home to somewhere, if I do use it. The trouble with that is another smart thing that they can do is look at your last journeys. And they'll see that you keep going back to this place. So it must be home. So there's, it is weird and awkward, but that is something that we need to address in our sat-navs. Some people have it in there, don't do anything other than on their phone. Probably the good way, being as they're not going to nick your car and nick your phone from, at the same time, possibly. Or that at least will be pin protected. Actually, thinking about that, do sat-navs that are inbuilt in cars now have pin protection for the sat-nav? Mine hasn't. Anyway. What was I talking about? Is it overkill? No, I've got one. I've also got a similar thing for my credit cards in my wallet, so that when I'm going up and down escalators in the underground, nobody can scan my cards by just using a phone to get your information off of your cards and then start laundering money and fraud and hacking and all that sort of stuff. So keyless entry into a car, you know how powerful it is now. If you walk 20 feet away from your car, the car books and all of this sort of stuff. They've now got scanners that can scan around about, I don't know, 10 feet into your house. And if you've got your car key in the door, forget it. If you've got your car key right over the other side of the house, you're pretty much going to be pretty safe. I mean, I love the idea that you just unlock the door and you can pull the handle. You don't need the key or anything. All that scratching when you were in the dark and you couldn't see where the hole was and all that sort of stuff has gone away from cars. But yeah, keyless entry and starting the car even without a key, all of that's in BMWs and high-end cars at the moment. I do find it troubling. And I've listened to what the most sought after car is at the moment is a Range Rover. Second is a BMW. Third is an Audi. And I've got an Audi. So you can imagine, yeah, concerned about it, matey. I don't think it's overkill at all. And you can get them and they're pretty cheap. But do buy one that's got a good reputation. You don't want to buy a cheapo one. There are ones that say that they block, but they don't very well, because they're cheap operational methods of making them, you know. So yeah, thank you very much and salute, my friend. And I think we're reaching the end now. Yeah, we're getting towards the end. The next one is from my friend Denny. And he's put, by the way, salute, Colin. Denny, hi, mate. This is going to make me smile. It was great to catch up last week after such a long time. Well, twice, as there was so much to catch up on. Yeah, the second one was a bit... It was only supposed to be 10 or 15 minutes. Ended up being an hour and a half. We were talking about a news thing. And it got a bit heated at one point. You know, to a point where I didn't know where this was going to end. But as always, nothing's going to break up our friendship. That ain't going to happen. Unfortunately, I'm still ill, you continue. Just wondering if it's the norovirus that's doing the rounds. And yes, it is. The norovirus was in the news last week. Can't seem to keep anything down, and the stomach and backache is horrendous. It's gone through the whole house. Interesting news this week after a decent start to the new Captain America film. The second week has had a drop-off of 82%. Disney are supposed to be cutting back on DEI. If this doesn't show them the audience has lost faith with this nonsense, nothing will. Now, I haven't seen Captain America, so I can't comment. What I can say about it is I'm not sure if DEI is even in it. You got to remember that Marvel did have a lot of DEI because they changed characters that were blokes into women and all of this sort of stuff. Okay. The thing that's been annoying me, without even seeing the film, is the negatives on certain characteristics, like Sam, who plays the Falcon, by the way, is no replacement for Captain America. Why doesn't he just do this, that, and the other, and all that sort of stuff? What you have to remember is that the Marvel Cinematic Universe is closely matched to the comic universe, and Steve Rogers, who was Captain America, did hand the shield to the Falcon, and he did become the new Captain America, and that was there for a good 18 months before handing the shield back. Now, we don't know what the future of the Marvel Cinematic Universe is. They're always 5 or 6 films ahead, right? How do we know that the Falcon won't do that again? Captain America at the moment is very, very old. We also know that the soldier serum regenerates. Okay, he could become young again. We've seen no end of stories on the Fantastic Four in comic form, where the whole Fantastic Four aged, but they came back, and it was something to do with the Skrulls. And Skrulls are in this particular film, like they've been in about 2 or 3 other films before it. So, could Captain America come back because of alien technology and be back to his younger self? Don't know. But there's all sorts of things that people are mentioning, and I don't know these things. Like, how can Sam, as the Falcon and with the shield, take a punch from the Hulk? And I've looked at that and gone, well, that shield has actually taken a hammering from Thor's hammer. It's made of a metal that absorbs energy. So, it's probably just absorbed the energy. All sorts of stuff I've heard. And people, because if they haven't read the comics, don't get it. From that point of view, I totally get it, because you might be alienated a little bit in regards to what the film is trying to portray. I can't comment, and don't take my opinion as anything gospel or anything like this. It's just what I'm trying to get at is, if the answer is in the film and you criticize it because you missed it, this is where it's better to have another look at something. You might need to see a film twice, especially a complex film. But from what I've heard, people are saying this film is simplistic. There's nothing complex about it. You could never not understand what's going on. And I think to myself, well, that's a good thing, isn't it? So many films come out and you go, bloody hell, blew my mind. I haven't got a bloody clue what all this stuff they were talking about. So I'm looking forward to seeing it when I've got my CinemaWare card, my VUE cinema card. It'll still be around, and I'll watch it, and I'll see what I think of it. And I come from a background where I've read Marvel comics for 50 years. Yeah. Ever since I was like, yeah, between 5 and 8, I think, is when I got my comics. So 50 plus years, yeah. Now that I've had a birthday this year. DEI, not sure about that, matey. If you've seen it and you know that there are characters in it that were blokes and now are women, or you've seen things in regards to equality and more ethnic people in it than white, Caucasian males and females, fair enough, fella. I don't know. I haven't seen it. Here we go. Some good news that has come through this week is many of the Jerry Anderson productions are being released on Blu-ray and 4K, starting with Thunderbirds and Space 1999. No doubt being produced on film, the 4K versions will be absolutely sensational. Restoration has also taken place for these sets. Now, the only bad side that I've got about that is they're repackaging them, but they've been out on Blu-ray before. That means that what they're doing is they did the 4K already, and they put the 4K on Blu-ray as much as they could, but with compression. And if we think the Blu-ray's great, the 4K is going to be great as well, because that's already been done. We'll know what, the HDR will be there to give it a boost in the colour and the blacks and the whites. But you're buying it again. And it was done at the same time as they did the Blu-rays. And they'll sell the Blu-rays again with different packaging. And people that are not on 4K will buy that thinking they've got a new product, which it isn't really. So, yeah, they haven't done Thunderbirds again after they've done a Blu-ray. They did the top of the range and downsized. Do you see what I mean? So the 4K was all ready to go. Do you know what I mean? Already there, because they scanned it at 4K. So, yeah, I'm looking forward to it. I'll definitely be buying the 4Ks. Blu-rays could be a bit of a con if you don't understand the process. I will say that. But anything that's from my childhood, or I think of personally is brilliant, that's going up to 4K, I'm all for. And I can't fault the Jerry Anderson team looking at their intellectual property and bringing these out in 4K. And yes, wasn't it wonderful? They were all done on film, not video. So all that hand cranking to slow it all down and all of that all made that model work so well. Question for this week: what other TV series that were shot on film would you like to see released on 4K? TV series and shot on film. Christ. Ugh. Well, I'll tell you what, we were talking this week, weren't we, matey? About a certain production company called Quinn Martin. Quinn Martin, yeah. So what would I like to see in Blu-ray or 4K? Because you say TV series that were shot on film that you would like to see released on 4K. So I'll bring Blu-ray in, because they've never been done on Blu-ray either, I think. And that is The Invaders, The Streets of San Francisco, going beyond Quinn Martin, the Planet of the Apes TV series, which was definitely done on film, Sapphire and Steel, which although was done on video, did have film elements because they had to film outside for one. And I remember Sapphire and Steel being out on the top of a roof and there was these seagulls around, and that I think was done on film. So it's a mix of film and video. So I will bring Sapphire and Steel in it. And that same goes for the mix of video and film that was in the Tomorrow People, the original Tomorrow People, where it was mostly video for the studio work, but when they went outside, it was film. And that was standard practice for a lot of ITV productions. The outside broadcast was done on film in the 70s. So how's that? I think there's a good little bundle there. Thank you so much for your question, matey. Thank you, Denny. Hopefully we will now keep our conversations a little bit more regular, but I do wish you well. Please rest up. And the last one is Steve's Gaming. Last but not least, because I go, you fucking bastard, ain't you little shit, your fucking channel's just too good. I have to do that. It's my salute to Steve. It's sort of like my little mini rant, if you want to call it. Mini rant. Steve, so he's put, hi Del, sorry for commenting so late. I honestly meant to do it a couple of days ago, but things have been so stressful lately that I forgot. Anyway, I hope your weekend has been better than mine, and I hope your mum is getting better now. My apology for missing her birthday. I hope she had a nice day. Now let's throw some questions at you. So before we go there, don't ever be sorry about anything. When it comes to my mum's birthday, she had a great time. And she does know you. I've mentioned you to a number of times to my mum. She ain't going to remember. She will never get better. Because you put, I hope your mum is getting better now. You know, all I can say is she gets better when she's in pain in regards to her back or her knees or whatever. But her memory and her quality of life degrades every day. Not an awful lot I can do about it. So question 1, have you ever suffered from serious depression? I do, and sometimes I can deal with it, and other times it's gotten so bad that I've considered things I cannot mention here. But if you have, how did you cope with it, and are you free of it now? I am of the opinion that you probably would never get over it. Yes, I've had depression. This whole blog, which is in year 4 now, started off a little bit as an experiment because I was going through something at work called a grievance. And it was a year-long battle for which I didn't win. And if you have a look, you'll see that there were blogs that I did in there where I couldn't care less about my appearance. I had beards, my hair was long, I wore scruffy clothes, couldn't care less. That's depression, or the start of. And it got worse in the fact that there was no one to talk to. And the things that you were saying where you daren't talk about um, because it would be the wrong thing to do. Those things, I know what you're talking about. And yes, I've considered those things myself. I'm too much of a coward to go through with what you're talking about. So all I could do was, it was sink or swim. And I was blown if I was going to sink anymore. So I swam. Yeah, and I look at it like that. And I felt like that a number of times, you know, when I've, when I moved my life to Manchester, I moved into a house based on the fact that I was going out with a girl and we were engaged. Within 2 months of moving into that house, for which, by the way, she had no money to put the deposit on, she buggered off. And I was left with a big bill. And I had to think to myself, do I stay in Manchester or do I give up my job at Lloyd's and move back home? And I had to ask my dad for a loan so that I could get a mortgage, got myself a house, found a second job. I was working for Lloyd's and working in another job, and paid my father back and paid the mortgage and had an ISA. But it did mean I could buy no games consoles, no games. If I did, it was once a month as a game. So I was buying RTS games, mostly, or role-playing, something that would last a while. And the internet and piracy was probably the only way to go. It was what I call my expansion into PCs. So yeah. Think of it like that was a very depressing time. You know, losing your girlfriend was terrible. But then the next girlfriend I was with for about 6 months, and she died. And we were married, we were engaged. It's funny, I fall in love quite quickly, and I did at the time want to get married. And each time that I did ask, would you marry me, I was lucky and got a yes. You'd think that would build confidence in you, but it doesn't. No. And yeah, she died, hole in the heart she had, and she did that diving in Thailand. Yeah, Shalise her name was. So yeah, bad times, and yeah, depression is awful. But the advice I can give you, matey, is just think you're on this planet for a reason. There are people that depend on you. There are people that you want to spend your time talking to, and therefore you should keep going. That's all I can say really with that. Question 2, on a more cheerful note. Yeah, thanks, mate. Can you name 3 comedians who would make you laugh just by walking on stage? My 3 would be Ken Dodd, Tommy Cooper, and Charlie Williams. All the best, my friend, and give me love to your mum. Well, will do, yeah, not a problem. Oh my God, well, Tommy Cooper and Ken Dodd, yeah, I would be the same. In fact, I think Tommy Cooper is probably the most important of all of those. Sorry, I must have my phone on off of silent for some reason. Yeah, I have. Right. It's a very important one because even my father said he just had to walk on in front of a camera, say nothing, and he just laughed. And that's a very important thing to have. You tend to find, though, that the other people that could do that as well, they all have a characteristic, and that is they're not exactly the most handsome of people. I will say that. So, yeah, I have to consider that. My three would be Eric Morecambe. He walked on with Ernie. You know, Eric and Morecambe and Wise. We're talking about here, so we're talking about Eric Morecambe. And he'd pop his head round from behind the stage curtain, and I'd just laugh. I'd go, "Here we go, it's gonna be funny." And he just had one of those faces, you know, that would just make you laugh just by seeing him. And Frankie Howard was the same. He had such a gaunt face. Not handsome at all. His hair, yeah, he didn't care. And he'd come and go, "Oh no, misses," and all of this sort of stuff. But without him even opening his mouth, you could see he was like a nervous Nelly. It just made me laugh. I think to an extent Normal Wisdom would do the same, but I think Normal Wisdom was a different type of funny, because it wasn't the fact that he looked funny, because he had his what they call Gump outfit on, you know, the unfitting suit. It was the fact that you'd seen films of him before that were funny, so as soon as his first appearance would be in another film, you laughed. And it wasn't really probably because of the way he looked. It was just, you know, now that the film is going to be an absolute riot. Do you know what I mean? He's going to say something stupid, do something stupid, whatever. Those are the three for me then. You only wanted three. I could go more. Les Dawson, all this sort of stuff. But I'll go with those three. Eric Morecambe, Frankie Howard, and Normal Wisdom. Thank you very much, my friend. That was an absolutely brilliant question. Pity it was only three. I'd probably put Walter Matthau in there, you know, as well. Just made me laugh. His face, oh my god, it's like it's like a wrinkled trout. Terrible. I was saying that. That's the last of the questions for the blog. Absolutely brilliant. So I've been talking now for an hour since the last took a break. I'm going to take a break, and I'm going to come back, and I'm going to do the new section, or should I say I've labelled them up slightly different, and it's a test. And we'll talk about what I've watched on YouTube, but I'll be back in a moment. Thanks very much. Won't be second. And we're back, and I've got my mama cuppa, and we move on to what I've watched on YouTube. And I've kept that title normal, but it's where the general stuff is. And there's a couple in here that I always watch, and there's a couple of odd things. So this week in retro, the three subjects were You're a Wizard, Mario, Switch On, Switch Off, and DIY, RGB, CRT, ASAP, LOL. You can tell what the last one was about. Interesting subjects. Totally agree with the first one. Best thing for you to do is watch it. It's an hour of your time. It's on a Saturday at 10 o'clock. Definitely worth a watch. And the other one is Techmoan, who's not done another video. This is the second week, but he did do an announcement saying he's got the bug that's going around. I take it it's the same bug, neurovirus or flu. And I wish him well. Hope he gets better soon. He'll be back when he's feeling better, because his has a lot of production values. The next one is The Gadget Show, which I've been watching a lot more of. That one was called Cheap versus Expensive Toaster. Can you taste the difference? And are these the weirdest gadgets ever? Both interesting, and it's quite an interesting one, the first one. If you buy a cheap toaster, if you buy an expensive toaster, can you really taste the difference between the two? What's the point in spending 200 quid on a toaster? Does it do anything different than a 20 quid one? Yeah, they've got these little things like reheat and defrost and all of these sort of things. But at the end of the day, do you need them? Do you know, very interesting. Can you taste the difference? I'll let you watch it so that you can see what they said about that. But that was quite good. And those weird gadgets, yeah, they were on the gadget show before. And a couple of them, there was one on there, the skateboard that was on the in the game by what was his name? Tony Hawks or something. Hawks, forgot his name. Sorry, it's just left me for a moment. But there was a game called Ride, and it came with a controller that was the skateboard itself. Now, mine is still in the attic, unboxed. I bought it from Game when they were going under. Do you remember when Game went bust the first time? They sold all their statues and big game stuff for a pittance. I bought the Ride console skateboard, no word of a lie, for a tenner, down from £99, I think it was. And I never took it out of the box. It's still upstairs. In fact, I think it was for the PS3. It was out for the Wii, the PS3, the Xbox 360, I think, at the time. And my friend said he'd bought his for a tenner, but he took his out of the box. He said, it's the worst thing you've ever used in your life. It's terrible. I said, yeah, but it was a tenner, mate. And he went, yeah, good job we didn't buy it for 99 quid. And I agreed. I bought Skyrim in that sale. It was a £160 or £150 dragon statue. And I bought it for 40 quid. And I bought a commando type game. What's it called? Oh, forgotten. That had a big statue in it. And I bought a Halo helmet with little cartridges on a Halo game. I think it was Halo 3 or 4 at the time. All of these things, they were 10 or 20 quid. Some were, the most expensive one I bought, I think, was the Skyrim one. That was about 50 quid, I think. But again, I never opened it. Still upstairs. Keys still there in it. Statue I looked at, thought it was brilliant, put it back in the box. And it's with my other statues. Yeah, did a lot of that during that sale. Should I say, when they went bust. A lot of stuff I played, don't get me wrong. Certain stuff I wanted more time, didn't have it. So they were there for me for the future. Next one I watch is Commode and Mayo's Take. Now, they did a box office top 10 and then various reviews of films this week, which was Captain America and Mickey, I think it was, or it was a monkey. Yeah, it was called Monkey, I think, and a number of others. I watched it because it used to be on the radio. Didn't know they were doing a podcast thing on YouTube. So I've subscribed to that in a hope to go back to that after I've seen films. So I watched them this week, but I won't be watching them every week because I want to watch the films first. And I know that I'm coming up to watching a month's worth of films next month on a special discounted cinema card. Then I watched something called Techless, and the title of what I saw on his channel was, "Are you using G-Sync wrong?" And then in brackets it said, "Possibly." I've got a G-Sync monitor, and G-Sync is enabled on it. And he was talking just like you should do, which is about latency, because you can have G-Sync on and V-Sync on, and the latency would boost up. But G-Sync is supposed to help with latency. So if you put G-Sync and V-Sync on, it reduces the latency you'd get by having V-Sync on. And it's a 250 hertz screen.
I'm not quite sure how to help you with that.
So, to be quite honest, it's pretty fast update screen. So, yeah, that was interesting. And he explained an awful lot of things about what G-Sync does. The next channel I watched was Old and New Video Games. That's the name of the title of the channel. And his video was called Evolution of DOS Game Graphics. So he explained what CGA, EGA, VGA, SVGA, etc., was, and the evolution of it through DOS games only. So when he gets to Windows, it's different. But it was explaining about how the colours worked, what screen resolutions you got with each of them, why they were as they were, why they are better now that we understand them, and why they were like they were back then. Very good, really, quite good. And then I saw Stez Sticks Fix. I watch him on occasion because I like those channels where they get the soldering iron out and try and fix things, and they use multimeters to try and work out what's going wrong. When you watch an amateur try and do it and diagnose it, it's quite good. So that's what I watched as general. I have to have another break. My drink's nearly finished. The next one I've changed. It's called Film, TV and Soundtrack YouTube. And this will be a combination of my friends and some various stuff. You'll recognise the names in these instantly for most of them. Some of them are my friends. But you'll also notice ones that are general, but they're general just from the point of view of that last section I've just done, but ones that I've watched more and fit into the bracket of film and TV and so forth. So first of all is Ian Hill, The Ramblings. What can I say about Ian Hill? My God, I've mentioned it before. Look how much he takes up on my pad. Look, bloody hell. So what did he do? He did my top 5 crime films, 1975, and I think it went to 82, 83. So he's getting towards, like the section of where I was watching a lot of films. Packages from HMV and Music Magpie. He got some films this week. Blink Twice 2024 review, which we talked about earlier. Doctor Who, The Visitation review. Yeah, I remember that one very well. X-Files Season 3 Episode 15 review. My God, he's moving through that now. He's at Season 3 Episode 15. When you think about that, there's 21 plus episodes per season, and he's up to Season 3 of 11. He's got a long way to go, but he's moving through them pretty rapidly. Bonzo Dog Doodah Band, the album Gorilla review. I remember that band just because of the name. I mean, my God, Bongo Dog Doodah Band. I mean, you recognise it just by the doodah bit. I mean, mental name. I do remember some of the tracks on that, but not the album, so that was interesting. And then Live With Me. What can I say? You had an absolute fantastic week because I was there. I'm just joking, but when you've got that much content, you've got to understand that there's something there for you all week. I think it's definitely one that you ought to go and see. I don't use like and subscribe for me, but I do like to quote my friends and mention ones that I think are worthy of a like and a subscribe, and definitely that's one to look at and then make your decision on. That's brilliant. Right, next one I watched was Playtendo Guy, who I've been on a number of chats with. He did quite a bit this week. He did a Captain America Bold New World short film review. The game Balato, I think it's called Balato. He did a live stream on that. I was at work when he was doing that, so I couldn't really participate. And he did a VHS Beyond Blu-ray review and an unboxing. So a number of things there. I'm not a big one on shorts. I think you need to say more when you're doing a review. But the nice thing is he points to his letterbox account where you can see a written form of his review. You'll see it takes a lot longer than a minute to read. Shorts are a minute long. Generally, I can say there are some that are longer than a minute because YouTube are promoting now up to 5, I think, minutes. But I'm not a big fan of shorts. I don't think you could say enough. So I disagree with certain parts of the Captain America, but I might agree with him if it had been a 15-minute review of it, because I'd understand more about what he was talking about. But definitely worth a watch. Definitely worth a promotion. Definitely go and have a little check of it. Then there's Mondo Chalovic Movies, which hasn't really done too much this week. Done an absolute ton of output the last 2 or 3 weeks. My God. But he did this week. Do Hammer Horror magazines point to future Hammer releases? Which he sort of touched upon in one last week, but he actually repeated a video he did a number of months back to back up his reasonings for it. And they're good reasonings. Definitely I am not worthy when it comes to Mondo Chalovic. His horror knowledge is just so fantastic. So I think that's one to definitely watch. Then we got Did You See That? An old friend of mine. He did an announcement video this week where he's got married. Yes, he's finally tied the knot. He's actually gone on a Saturday to a church, got married. Absolutely brilliant. So that was really nice. I wished him well on that one. He also did a PlayStation trade-in and a Captain America Brave New World review. All these Captain America Brave New reviews I haven't watched an awful lot of. I have to say that. I've mentioned them because I think they're worth a watch from those particular people, because I think they'll have a good insight for you. But I haven't seen it myself, so I can't say. But I do know that from what I've watched of little reviews, and there haven't been many, they're all getting things asked about face in regards to Captain America and some other little aspects, like how can the most powerfulest being in the world punch someone and not feel it, and things like that. I can answer all those sort of questions. It's all been answered in the comics. Then we've got Jim Jam Movies, who I've met he lives in Birmingham. I met him with Denny last year. He did a few pickups and deliveries, so that was good. That was interesting. I do like it, those, because it lets me know that there's certain videos and stuff that are in these charity shops. They could be in your local one. So I do look at those, even if I'll never go to Birmingham and look at them, if you see what I mean. Then I went to a channel called Film Review Central, which I've only gone to a couple of times. But he did a review of the Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man end of season review. So there's 10 episodes to the Spider-Man cartoon. It's just finished. I've watched it all now. I watched the 10th episode yesterday. I'm a big Spider-Man fan, so I'm very critical of it. But it worked out better than I thought it would. The animation style is not for me. Only being, I think, slightly better than the computer-generated Spider-Man one that they did in the early 2000s. But it's still worth a watch if you've got Disney Plus. He also did a film review of Heart Eyes, which is a movie that was released around Valentine's Day, and he did the Monkey movie review, which is a new one. It only come out this week, and one I just mentioned before in the section, in the general section that I was talking about before. That general section was Commode and Mayo's Take. Yeah. So that was the Film Review Central. I enjoyed that. I've subscribed. Definitely going to look at that one a little bit more. Adam Martin is a name I've mentioned before on this channel. He did the idents and adverts that we've seen through the years. He does a lot of TV stuff. The thing I watched this time was called Major Power Failure, the disaster, the disastrous BBC Two launch. Now, if you know your history, BBC Two started in colour, but really, really poorly. It had a power failure. There was lots of things that went on that night. Live stuff went wrong. Recordings were all over the place. So that was interesting for a bit of history about BBC Two. And then there was the where TV channels should be shut down. There's a lot of changes going on with Freeview at the moment. A lot of stuff means that Sky and other providers can't give it you. So he's mentioning the channels that are closing, and then mentioning the variety of programs left, and then coming back and talking about them. So that was interesting. And then the last channel was called the Vinyl Score, which hasn't got an awful lot of content recently, but a lot in the back catalogue. I looked at the articles for Game of Thrones vinyl soundtrack, and yeah, that was a retrospective Game of Thrones. The other one was a Dirty Harry, if I remember rightly. Yeah. So they're all from different years. So excuse my memory not remembering. But I looked and I really enjoyed it. That was great. I've only got 2 more pages of this. So I'm just going to get my drink because I forgot to get one. Won't be a moment. So already I've got this back, and thanks very much. And you can tell already that my speech is better. So actually, the last one, so that was called Film TV Soundtrack YouTube. It's one more page, and it used to be called Your YouTube, but it's called Game and Tech YouTube now because it's my friends, but it's more game and tech ready. If you want to bookmark these particular sections, all my year 3 videos are going to have a timestamp on them. These ones will eventually as well. But this one is called Game and Tech YouTube. Down the Rabbit Hole is there first, just like he normally is. Love his channel. He did Vectrex Sundance. The community is... I've forgotten what I can't read what I've written there. Look, the community is... I don't know. He was basically complimenting it anyway. There is not a new game, but the Vectrex is an old system, and there are new games or hobbyist or stuff that's come out after the console was made. Homebrew market, and it's a game called Sundance, and it used to be in the arcades, and it's got a sort of a grid that sort of like slowly moves towards it. You have to bounce something back up. It drops down. You hit it with your bat. It goes back up. And that keeps the poles apart, but they slowly get smaller. That means the ball's got a much smaller drop rate, so you have to move really quickly. Very good. He talked about the arcade cabinet, which has got a sort of like a numeric pad on a keyboard. Don't know if I can show a keyboard here, but instead of having a joystick that you moved back and forth, it had a numeric pad. So if the ball was coming down at the bottom left-hand corner, you'd hit that key, and if it was the bottom right, you'd hit that key. And so it's a bit like whack-a-mole, a little bit. So it must have been easier to play. He wouldn't have that on his Vectrex, so he'd have had to use the joystick. Makes it much harder. So that's great. And he also did a PlayStation VR 2 Arcade Paradise DLC. But I posed the question, where's my pinball table? Yes, so what happens is that most people that develop a game system, and this one is called Arcade Paradise, sometimes do a VR version where it's immersive and you put the VR headset on. What he's noticed is the differences between the two that you buy. Certain stuff is not there, and he posed the question, why? Where's it gone? My answer to him there is that not all models will be able to be transferred and made available in VR that quickly, because you'll have to redevelop the model. That's possibly the reason. The other one is it's probably already there, or it's going to come out in the future. It all depends on sales. VR's very volatile at the moment in regards to sales, so watch this space is what I need to say to my friend. And salute for that, down the rabbit hole, because the next one is Robert's Retro Gaming, and oh my god, here we go, here's a list. Right, so this is my friend who's very big on the Atari, plays lots of games on the Atari, but other stuff as well, and there's something every day really. So he's gone back to a game on Steam called No Man's Sky, and he's up to episodes 22 and 23. He's still playing the game I bought him for Christmas, which is called Subnautica, and he's on episode 14. I love that. Religiously, I watch that. Brilliant. He played 2 Spectrum games, Rainbow Islands and Bubble Bobble 2. Now, if you know anything, those 2 games are linked, okay? Because Rainbow Islands is a variation of Bubble Bobble, done differently. I think it's called Bubble Bobble 3 Rainbow Islands, actually. So he played number 2 and he played the 3rd one on the Spectrum. And then he did an Atari 8-bit couple of games. He did Cosmic Defender and Keystone Capers. Again, Atari 8-bit is his cup of tea. So you'll see an awful lot of gameplay on that, and probably an understanding of the rules as well, because it's his love of the Atari that means that he's got hundreds of those games already in the bag, done and dusted. Definitely worth a watch. Robert's Retro Gaming, Canadian royalty. I'm not worthy. Definitely go and see it. Then we've got Steve's Gaming, little shit. Little bastard. I have to do my little salute. He's not been very well, but even he has brought out some stuff. He's put HomeSoft disc 40 and 41. Yep, he's up to disc 41. Loads of games on that 41. I think there was about 12. So that took a while for him to go through, but well worth your time to watch. How to play Elden Ring, or should I say how not to play Elden Ring, and he's up to episode 20 and 21. He loves Elden Ring. He's played it once before, but he's gone back and he's playing it like a newbie, and he's trying to remember what you're supposed to do, so which is why he's called the title of the video broadcast How Not to Play It, because the way you should be playing it, you can get in other videos if you want. So that's great. And then he did a Spectrum game called Plyuk or Plyuk. We don't know quite which way. But it was an interesting game. I didn't totally agree with what Steve said. To me, it requires a little bit more instruction or video or work on it. I thought the graphics were fine. But again, they're just zoomed in. They look like pixel art. And you don't need that really, I think, on an Atari, but on a Spectrum. But I think it works to an extent. Thank you very much, Steve. Absolutely brilliant. Keep up the good work, mate, and get well soon. Love to your family. The last couple, Seb's Place. He did an interesting in-depth review like on Rockstar Hate My Hamster, but he called his channel or that particular review, the heading was The Pope Ate My Rockstar. Just put a couple of people and make it crazy, ate my Rockstar. Bloody hell. Brilliant. NFC Gamer and Vlogs did another blog this week. He did 2 last week, 1 this week. He's doing incredibly well. I wish him all the best for that. He's definitely worth a watch if you like these blog type things. And like I say, I do a blog. And then the last one is Mainmeister, who did an Arcade Perfect My Arse on Quartet, the conversion of Quartet across all the video game releases. So there was obviously a C64, a Spectrum version, but there was also the arcade version itself. And that's the end of the blog. So I'm just going to set up now what I've bought this week, and then we'll get on with the movie stuff. So just bear with me and I'll set that all up. There we are, and I've got the stuff to show you, so let's go to overhead cam. So this is the stuff that arrived this week. It's very small pickings, but really quite expensive, and I'll explain why in a moment. So we'll go to overhead cam. There we go. And the first thing is a steelbook. This turned up this week. It was from HMV, you can see. It's the Mandalorian TV series. It's season 3, so I've got all of them now. That's in steelbook format. The one thing I will say about it is, although you get slightly more in these packages, you can see it's got the discs and something else. You get the steelbook and that. It's too expensive, way too expensive for really what it is. And they only give it you in a steelbook form, so you got no choice. And the others is 2 omnibuses, and that's why it's expensive. So these omnibuses, they come in every now and again, but they're coming out way too often at the moment at the beginning of the year. You'll see I've shown too many omnibuses already this year. We're only at the end of February. This one, 2 of them, all related to each other. It's Secret Wars, which is not the original Secret Wars. It's the huge event that occurred a couple of years ago by Jonathan Hickman. And this includes the core episodes and some miniseries. You can see there it's a much smaller form factor, and so is $100. But because I pre-ordered it and because it's a smaller one, it's below £50. I think it was 45, something like that. So that wasn't too bad. But when you consider what I bought with The Mandalorian, we're now up to even £100 now. And this came out at the same day, and it's volume 1, which means there are more. I think it goes up to volume 3, and that is Secret Worlds Battle World, which is all the miniseries that was going on during Secret Wars. You can see it's a much bigger release, therefore it is $150. It includes far more books, but it's in purple. It's really hard to read. I don't know why they did that. The spine's lovely, by the way. This is just a dust cover. Underneath it's a leather, sort of a false leather hardback book. I got this for £60 odd, so basically the 2 books together were just over 100. And as you can see, it's a volume 1, so there's more to go. This crossover event was huge, and really just going to go back to the camera, so basically when you see some of the stuff that I buy, it's not to show off. These are the things that I collect, which is comics, films, soundtracks, games on occasion, and most of it is costly, which is why I don't go into the statues as much as I used to. I used to love statues. I used to buy one of those every 3 or so months, and they were like nearly £1,000, some of them. They were mostly in the £400 or £500 bracket. If you go back 20 years when I started, they were about £170, somewhere around there. But they're much bigger now. They're what they call PFs, which is quarter scale. I used to buy them at 1/6 scale. So basically, yeah. Quarter scale's huge. It'd take me all the way up to my overhead cam up here, down to my desk. So basically huge. And that's it. So we're going to go to the trailers now, and I think I'm just about ready to show the trailers. I think everything's all set up. I think it will play. So I'm going to take you straight there. If it goes wrong, I'll just pause. We'll go to media playback. There we go. And we'll play the first one, and I hope you like them. These are the films that I've watched this week, because there's very little to show you steelbook wise or film wise. So these are all stuff that I've watched on telly, or I've got already, or digital format. Most of them will be actually from TV this week, although there's a couple here that I did watch on physical media. So the first one that I'm about to play is a physical media release. Here we go.
You will be working with patients, people, doctor.
When you say people, do you mean living people?
You do want the job, don't you?
Hi,
I'm Dr. Thayer.
I'm Wahida.
Wahida. I'd like to ask...
I was born in 1911 in Kingsbridge, New York. Prior to July 1955, I resided at the Brooklyn Psychiatric Center, Brooklyn, New York.
How are you today?
I'm fine, thank you. Prior to that, I was a person.
It gets easier. You don't think it will, but it does.
Can you hear me? Does he ever speak to you?
Of course not. Not in words.
No change, dated 9/11/44.
Your patients, doctor, haven't moved in decades.
What I believe, what I know, is these people are alive inside.
Well, how do you know that, doctor?
I know it.
I just wanted to say to you, I preferred your explanation.
At 200 milligrams, he showed no response. Maybe he needs more.
Maybe he needs less.
Good
It's a miracle.
Where are my glasses?
They're on your face. I don't think that I could deal with losing 30 years of my life, could you?
Have you thought what you'd like to do today?
Everything.
Leonard, where are you going?
I would do all the things that you people take for granted. I'd go for a walk. I'd look at things. I'd talk to people.
You work here?
No, I live here.
You don't look like a patient.
I don't?
Girls.
You're not married. Me?
Would you like to go out for a cup of coffee?
Leonard! 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 That's not wading, that's swimming! Leonard!
If I'm going to turn my daughter over to you, at least I want to know what you're like.
I'm here one night without Millie. Don't get me into trouble.
We'll be landing in Los Angeles in 5 minutes, Miss Berry.
I hope you win the Oscar!
Hi, buddy. What you doing? Just sitting here watching the toilet flush.
Happy birthday from your brother, Harry.
She's not happy in New York, Hannah.
Nobody's happy in New York, but they're alive.
How many gin and tonics have you had?
We drank an entire bottle of tequila with my wife coming in.
Never threaten a man who spent 2 years working the drunk ward. Now back off!
How the hell can you be so flippant when it comes to your own daughter's well-being?
When you can't have what you want, you make certain that everyone else around is equally as miserable.
Panic is the quickest way to divorce. Don't panic! She'll abide by whatever decision we both make.
Tell me that you enjoyed being with us on our vacation! Best time I've ever had!
We keep up a front for everyone else. Why can't we do it for ourselves?
You're worse than a hopeless romantic. You're a hopeful one.
How's our boy doing?
Incredible.
Now, easy, big guy. Hold on.
They're approximately 50 feet tall, wearing their birthday suits.
God, look at the size of him.
Did you say your beast is a female?
He was trying to get to the female.
God, what have they done to her?
She's pregnant.
America's biggest hero is back. And he is not happy. King Kong lives.
Mary, Queen of Scots, a name in history 3 centuries old. But fiction at its peak of excitement pales before the dramatic facts of her tempestuous reign.
So I will travel to Scotland through England. I will go to the court of Elizabeth and win her friendship.
Never. I will have no dealings with that lady, and I will use force if I must to stop her returning to Scotland.
Now Hal Wallace, who gave you Beckett and Anne of the Thousand Days, presents the story of the girl who by birth was Queen of Scotland, by marriage, Queen of France, by right some claim, Queen of England.
Madam.
My lord, I urge you to guard your mistress well, for there are many who would wish her dead.
This woman who has offered me the most deadly insult charms you, my lord.
Oh, no. I find her tiresome. Oh, madam!
Two of history's most powerful women are portrayed by two of the world's most exciting stars.
May it please Almighty God, she hates me as I hate her.
Vanessa Redgrave as Mary Stuart, who was first a woman. Glenda Jackson as Elizabeth, Queen of England, who was first a monarch.
Queen of Scots is lighter of a fair son. I am but barren stock.
The papal spy Rizzio has bewitched the Queen. There is talk of their meeting in his room at night.
State business, they say.
Well, they say that you are cuckolded, my lord.
Lies!
Darnley, Mary Stuart's second husband.
I am the king! I will be obeyed!
Save me! Save me!
Rizzio, kill him!
In this casket are your letters to Lord Bothwell that prove that you are a murderess and that you led the king to his death. Abdicate, or I will publish them and have you tried for murder.
I desire her to be without power, but not dead.
I will never abdicate. I am the queen. I will die the queen.
By God, if it were not for policy, I have it in me to ride north into her very palace and warn her of what is to come.
Favorites of queens, victims of fate.
If I bring you proof that she plots to kill you.
No.
Written proof, irrefutable proof.
Is there such proof?
There will be.
There's him. He's alive. What?
These are yours, yes?
Yes.
All of them?
Yes.
Tell me, why is an accomplished foreign architect shoveling coal here in Philadelphia?
I'm afraid it is not so simple. There was a war on, and yet many of the sites of my projects had survived. My buildings were devised to endure such erosion of shoreline.
I brought you all out here to join me in looking forward toward the future.
What do you think?
It's unusual, even for you.
Your English is impressive. Perhaps you can help your husband sound less like he shined shoes for a wage. I'm sorry, will you please pass that back?
They do not want us here.
Who do you mean?
The people here. They do not want us here.
When dogs get sick, they often bite the hand of those who fed them. Until someone mercifully puts them down.
promise you won't let it drive you mad.
I promise.
There you are. That's just some of the trailers. Awakenings. What a film. I've had that film for years. I've had it on Laserdisc. I've had it on VHS. I've got it on Blu-ray. Penny Marshall. She made that League of Their Own that I watched a couple of weeks ago, which another old favourite of mine from the 90s. Awakenings, though, based on a true story. People that went into a sort of like a coma type state, and when you're looking at Robert De Niro's story there, he'd been asleep for nearly 40 years. He went to sleep at 13 or 14, woke up a man. You can imagine what that would be like, and it was a true story. There was a drug that brought these people back, but of course it failed. They went back to sleep. But the story is just such a charismatic one. Fantastic. California Suite. We were talking about it on Wednesday, and I'm going to buy that film as soon as I possibly can. I'd forgotten all about it. It's getting very close to the Oscars. It's a dramatization based on the lives of it's about 4 or 5 different stories that go on in this Beverly Hills hotel on Oscar night. But they're not all about the Oscars. It's Michael Caine and Maggie Smith that's in the Oscars. That's that's probably the standout story. But the Jane Fonda one, equally charismatic. The Walter Matthau one is funny. His brother arranged for his birthday to have a prostitute for the night. That was funny. You know, I cringe a little bit on the Bill Cosby one because of what we know, but that's great. King Kong Lives. Oh, well, this was on telly, and I watched it, and I remembered just how bad that film is. And yeah, if you want to buy it on Blu-ray, it's like 30 quid. Linda Hamilton, I don't think she'd done Terminator at the point that film came out, but it made me laugh all the way through. It's what, 77, 8 years after the 1977 huge cinematic revival of King Kong, which was equally panned or criticized at least. In this one, after it fell off the skyscraper, they put in a pacemaker. I mean, my God, it even sounds bad on paper. And then when you throw in a female Kong, it's like, well, you've just found the biggest bloody monster that you could find. Where did the female one go? It's an atrocious film. Mary Queen of Scots, probably the best version, I think, of the Mary Queen of Scots. There are newer ones, don't get me wrong. But that one was based around the BBC miniseries. I think it was on about 3 or 4 episodes of an hour and a half each. So that was a 6-hour production for the BBC, crammed into 2 hours for a film audience. Vanessa Redgrave played a great Mary Queen of Scots. Glenda Jackson got an Oscar, I think, for this production because she'd already got a BAFTA for the miniseries, if I remember rightly. And it's great to know a little bit about Scottish history. Obviously, I know that Queen Elizabeth I had a cousin, you know, obviously from all the different marriages of Henry VIII. Mary Queen of Scots is an elder sister, really, an elder cousin who had a right to the throne. And she did everything she possibly could to make sure that her offspring would become King of England at some point, and hopefully take away the divide between Scotland and England, which is a noble thing when you consider the 16th century. I love all that history stuff. It's great. And The Brutalist we talked about earlier, which is at the cinema at the moment, go watch it. You'll hear what Ian said about it being bleak and so forth. You'll see by the what you saw in the trailer, it is. But it is an interesting take on an immigrant's life. Somebody who is more talented than the job that he's doing in his new country. It's a very good film. Guy Pearce did a fantastic job in it. And that's the trailers. So I've given a bit of an explanation about those, probably because I had a little bit more time because there was less comments. So I hope year 4, episode 1's got off to a good start. Probably not the best. It's been an interesting week where I think I've had probably one of the bleakest weeks. But saying that, I'm still chipper. I'm still here. I'll continue to do my gaming series. There'll be some more Friends stuff that I'll be doing and getting out. I'll probably continue the King's that gaming series that I'm doing, Kingdom Come Deliverance, and the Friends stuff, and then hopefully start bringing out some more film stuff. You notice I did a couple of descriptions there of the trailers, and like I say, some of those films that are there are just fantastic. Awakenings, what a film. California Suite, what a film. Mary Queen of Scots, if you're into your history, great film from the 70s, that one. And like I say, King Kong Lives is just an anomaly, and The Brutalist is current. So with that, I'm going to say salute. Hope you enjoyed the blog. Hope to see you next week. I'm sure there will be another blog next week. We've started off year 4. May as well continue. But it's been one of those tough ones. But with that, thank you very much and salute. Bye-bye.